So this is the predictable what you will need part of the tutorial, because you will need some supplies. Naturally, you'll need a flash drive that can take Debian Live, and you'll want to have enough extra space on there to actually save stuff. I would say for practical purposes, maybe an 8 gig would be adequate. I'm going to use a 32, but you don't have to use a 32. The actual operating system in Debian Live without anything added to it is typically around 2.2 gig. So I'm going to make the partition 3 gig. But if we look at where you're going to get the ISO to begin with, this is the official Debian website, you can see here. And there are actually quite a lot of choices. I've mentioned this before. I'm using this one. It includes the GNOME graphical user interface for AMD 64, Debian Live 9.8. But you can see there are a lot of other choices here. I'll simply say that there's no rule that says you can't use the others, but you'll be experimenting because I haven't tested these others. I don't know how hard it is to get this persistent partition method to work with the others. Presumably there'd be no problems, but I don't know that for a fact. Now, second disclaimer is I'm doing all of this from Windows. There are actually, as I understand it, more tutorials for making bootable live flash drives from Linux itself. Say if you have a Linux PC and you want to produce a live thumb drive basically to take with you when you use other computers so that you can never be without Linux. That's basically what those are for. But my own case is I want one so that I can use Linux natively from time to time because I'm primarily a Windows user and I don't have a Linux desktop. I do have a Raspberry Pi, but I don't have a full power desktop Linux machine at the moment. So this is my situation. For that reason, I mentioned earlier that you need an emulator for the Linux file system, or really a driver. This is the most comprehensive one I could find that allows you to write as well as to read, and it's freeware. X2FSD. This does not work perfectly. I should add that disclaimer right away. There are complaints that people have with it. My own complaint is sometimes my computer refuses to shut down after I've been working on a Linux partition. After forcing a restart, I've also found some of my videos for this tutorial corrupted. Notice that it's a beta, so perfection is not necessarily something you can expect. I would say install, use, and uninstall. So, the disclaimer must be added that it is not perfect, and most people are rather wary of it. Basically, if you can find something more mature that's in version 1 or more, or if you can get a newer version of this in a few months' time, you'd be better off. Now, for producing the original version of the flash drive, this is one of the easiest programs to use. This is called Rufus. It says create bootable USB drives the easy way. And it's basically aimed at Linux users, so you can see how it works. You choose your device. Here it looks like it's already been prepared. You choose the image. You tell it whether you want a master boot record. In this case, we will want that. And you choose your file system. The standard is FAT32 for the boot partition. And then you create it. And that will not give you the partition for persistence. For that, you need a partition program of some kind. Now, theoretically, Windows has this built in. Unfortunately, like a lot of aspects of Windows 10, it really doesn't work very well. I've tried it. I was unable to get it to work for this project. So, I tried a few different partition assistants that you can get for free online. This is the one with the most features. Aomai, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It is Chinese in origin. So if you're going to be producing a flash drive for secure use in Red China, you probably shouldn't use it. I'm not accusing these people of anything, but it's simply the circumstances. You have to be careful. But I'm not talking about super secure use. I'm talking about just using Debian in a fairly normal situation. Basically, you never want to have bad security, but I would say this is for an average level of security, not something that would be very serious. If anything, the main problem with my install is that it doesn't have a password. Now, I'll show you how this works in a minute. Another thing you'll probably want is some kind of text editor that can handle configuration files in Linux from Windows. So Brackets is mostly designed for web design. I've shown it in some of my other tutorials. It's probably perfectly suitable for this situation. Atom's a little bit of a system hog. You could also use NetBeans or even Notepad. There are a few choices. This is one of the least important things, but I'm just mentioning that this is one of the nicer ones for editing configuration files. I also use it for games editing too. So if we move on, in the next part I'll actually start to build the thumb drive.